So in November of 2014, BioWare and EA released Dragon Age Inquisition. Now, 5 years later, we still don't have Dragon Age 4. Since I'm getting tired of waiting, I'm ready to start speculating. So without further ado, today I want to talk about setting. Most people have already speculated this, so likely this will be no surprise to anyone when I say there's a strong possibility we'll be into Winter. There's even a short thing at the end of the Trespasser DLC that heavily hints to that being the case. So here are 6 things I expect we'll see into Winter. Number 1, slaves. If we do not see slaves in this game, we will not be into Winter. Slaves are a staple of Deventer society. They're the backbone of their economy. Nothing says high class society like indentured servitude. Seriously though, the chances that this game is going to heavily feature a slave rebellion are very good. There's a definite possibility that we will be at least heavily involved in a slave rebellion, if not leading it. And if not us, Solus. The chances that he'll be around and leading a slave rebellion, at least a rebellion of the elven slaves, are good. Very good. I won't elaborate as to why, just because I don't want to spoil anything, but I definitely think our chances of Solus being part of a slave uprising are high. And if there is no large slave uprising, I would be thoroughly surprised if there were not at least a handful of side missions that allowed you to help slaves escape or help them have a better life. Now, all that said, it would be interesting if they went a different route with it. In Dragon Age Inquisition, Dorian presents a slightly pro slavery stance where he argues that the option to be a slave is better than the option to just be poor and hopeless in the alienated, because the slaves can at least gain a position of respect. They can learn a trade. They can be a craftsman. So, there is a possibility that we will see a few different takes on Tevinter slavery. And personally, I hope that we do. I would like them to add some nuance to this and make you have to go, well, is this bad? And likely, the end result for most will be yes. But to make you wonder, that would be some really interesting writing. And there would have to be some really interesting stories. Number 2, magic. This one's kind of a big duh. I mean, what's a magocracy without mages? But magic in Deventer is everywhere. I mean, they even use it to build things, and apparently, they'll even hold up falling down buildings with magic. And so they'll just be buildings, falling buildings, frozen in the air, which actually sounds really awesome. Because they use so much magic, Deventer needs a steady source of lyrium. So the one race we won't see enslaved is dwarf. In fact, the Orzammar has a embassy in Minrathous where they kind of actually can participate in the local politics. They're not actually a ruling body, but they act as a lobbying group for the interest of dwarves in Toventer. In fact, at least a few of these embassies are underground entirely, so these dwarves actually get to maintain their castes and not be considered surface dwarves, and some of them don't even really leave the embassy. Number 3, blood magic. I could have technically included this in the magic section, but since it's the Deventer, I figured blood magic should have its own kind of thing. They're kind of known for this, and technically, big technically there, it's illegal, but everyone does it in secret. I mean, everyone knows everyone's doing it, so it's really not that secretive. And in fact, one of the big things that people will do is, or for a political rival, is try to expose them using blood magic so that then they get arrested because apparently the punishments are fairly strict. Since this is a Dragon Age game, I'm gonna almost guarantee right now that there's gonna be a lot of missions involving blood magic. I mean, to Venter aside, how many missions in Dragon Age 2 were just blood magic, blood magic, blood magic? Now, I guess one only had really only a handful, and I guess Inquisition didn't really have many at all. But oh my God, it's the Venter. There's gonna be blood magic everywhere. Number 4, the Imperial Chantry, or as it's known outside of the Tevinter Imperium, the Black Chantry. They have a good number of differences, but probably the most fundamental is that the normal chantry, or the white chantry, considers Andraste the bride of the maker and basically their biggest prophet, whereas the black chantry considers her just a mortal woman who was also a mage. Now, among some of the other differences would be their outlook on mages. They don't see magic as such a bad thing. In fact, they don't even see blood magic as inherently wrong. They see blood magic as a pathway to powers that are wrong, such as controlling others, summoning demons. Those kinds of things go to a point that is excessive. I'm not actually sure, but based on something Dorian says in Dragon Age Inquisition, I kind of think that there's even some leniency given when the blood magic is based on your own, or is using only your own blood, or using the blood of a willing sacrifice. Among some of their other differences are, unlike the white chantry, men can rise in much higher ranks. In fact, the black divine, or as he's known in the Tevinter Imperium, the true divine, or the imperial divine, has always been a man, and a mage no less. In fact, there is only a certain point that you can make it in the Imperial Chantry without being a mage. So while the White Chantry decides to lock up mages, the Black Chantry puts them in their leadership. Not only that, but their circles are not prisons, but prestigious academies where mages go to learn their magics, and their circles actually get seats in the magisterium and genuine political power. Ranking members of the Chantry and the Divine themselves all have a spot on the magisterium, and not only that, but their Templars are more like soldiers. They're not these righteous knights. In terms of political power, they're a whole lot weaker too. They can really only go after mages who don't really have any friends or any political power themselves. And once again, according to Dorian in Dragon Age Inquisition, they don't even suppress spells. Number 5, Minrathous. Minrathous is the capital of the Tevinter Imperium. It was originally a port city on a single island that is only connected to the rest of the continent by a single bridge. A bridge which is guarded by golems, known as juggernauts. Because of these things, no army has ever actually been able to take over Minrathous. And I've actually heard speculation, and I think it's a fair guess, that that's going to change in this game. Personally, I would love to sack Minrathous. I just want to see it first off, but then to become its ruler, that sounds like a lot of fun. Number 6, the war against the Qunari. Off and on for the past 200 years, the Tevinter Imperium has been warring with the Qunari. Largely, I believe it's over the island of Saharan, which is an island to the north of the Tevinter Imperium and to the south of Parvalan, where the Qunari live. Likely, this war is going to come into play in Tevinter society in some way. I don't know if we're actually going to see the battlefield of Saharan, although I do hope we will, but I think we will hear of soldiers being sent off and families that have had their young men sent off to war. And I wouldn't be surprised if there was a few side missions in which we had to do something that in one way or another affected the war effort. Well, that's all I have for you. Thank you for listening. Let me know in the comments what you thought of it and what you hope and expect to see when we finally do get to go to Tevinter. Like, subscribe, and share the video if you enjoyed it. See you next time.